You are one of the best soccer players on earth. You have been kicking a ball since you were 4 years old. You have practiced this exact kick 12 yards, standing still, goalkeeper in front of you, more than 10,000 times in your life. You could probably do it in your sleep. And yet right now, with 1 billion people watching and your country's World Cup dream on the line, your legs feel like they belong to someone else. Your heart is slamming, your vision is narrowing, you feel like you're going to throw up, and in the next 5 seconds you miss. Not because you forgot how to kick a ball, but because your brain, the same brain that is supposed to protect you from danger, just decided that a soccer match was life or death. Today, we are going to use the World Cup's most brutal moment, the penalty shootout, to explain exactly what panic and anxiety do to your brain, and more importantly, what the best players in the world do to survive it. If you have ever frozen up during a job interview, blanked on a test you studied for, or choked during a presentation, you knew cold, you have felt exactly what Roberto Baggio felt in the 1994 World Cup final. You did not fail because you were not good enough. You failed because your brain hijacked your body at the worst possible moment. By the end of this video, you will understand why anxiety literally makes skilled people perform worse than beginners. The exact moment the brain switches off automatic skill and starts overthinking. How the world's best penalty takers use psychology to cheat the pressure, and the 3 things you can do today in real life to stop panicking when it counts. Let's start with the most famous miss in the history of football. July 17th, 1994. The Rose Bowl, Pasadena, California, Italy versus Brazil. World Cup final. The game has gone 120 minutes, no goals. It all comes down to a penalty shootout. Roberto Baggio steps up last. Italy needs him to score to keep the match alive. He had already dragged Italy to the final almost single-handedly, scoring the crucial goals against Nigeria, Spain, and Bulgaria. He is arguably the best player at the entire tournament. He places the ball, steps back, breathes, runs up, and fires the ball high over the bar. Baggio later wrote in his autobiography, "It was the toughest moment of my career." He said, "It haunts me. I still dream about it." Here's what makes this so fascinating from a psychology perspective. Baggio's penalty conversion rate during that entire tournament was perfect. He had just scored a penalty to eliminate Nigeria in extra time. He was money from 12 yards. So what happened? Was he just unlucky? No. His brain happened. And the same thing has happened to millions of people who are not on a soccer field, just in a room with a job interview, or a stage, or a first date, or a doctor's phone call. Science actually has a name for what Baggio experienced. Psychologists call it choking under pressure, but it is not weakness. It is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do at exactly the wrong time. Let's talk about what is actually happening inside your skull during a high-stakes moment. Your brain has 2 modes for doing skilled tasks. Mode 1, automatic. This is where expertise lives. When you have done something 10,000 times, your brain stores it as muscle memory, fast, unconscious, efficient. You don't think about how to walk, you just walk. Mode 2, conscious. This is slow, deliberate, step by step. Good for learning new things. Very bad for executing things you already know. Here's the cruel twist. When the stakes get high, anxiety triggers your brain to switch from mode 1 to mode 2. Researchers at the National University of Singapore found through brain imaging that right before an athlete chokes, there is a spike in activity between the prefrontal cortex and the motor cortex. Basically, your thinking brain starts micromanaging your body brain, and the body brain, which was running perfectly fine on autopilot, gets confused and breaks down. Psychologists call this the Explicit Monitoring Theory, and it shows up in penalty shootouts with brutal clarity. A study analyzing World Cup and Champions League shootouts found that conversion rates fall from around 78% on normal penalties to as low as 69% in shootout conditions. That drop is not about skill. The kicks are the same distance. The goal is the same size. Only the pressure changed, and it gets worse. Research on anxiety and performance found that the harder the stakes, the more severely it hits the most skilled people. Why? Because experts rely most heavily on automation. The more you have practiced, the more your brain hates being forced back into manual mode. Translation, the better you are, the more your own anxiety can hurt you, which is why the smartest players in the world have figured out ways to trick their brains, and we will get there. Here's something that will completely change how you think about watching a penalty shootout. In 2006, during the World Cup quarterfinal between Germany and Argentina, which ended in a shootout, cardiovascular hospitalizations in the area tripled. Not went up slightly, tripled. In the Netherlands, when the Dutch national team lost to France on penalties in 1996, there were 14 more deaths than usual that day from heart attacks and strokes. Anxiety is not just psychological, it is physiological. When you feel threatened, whether by a lion, a car accident, or a penalty kick, your body floods with stress hormones. Adrenaline spikes, your heart rate accelerates, muscles tighten, your digestive system shuts down, blood flow redirects to your limbs, your body is preparing you to fight or run. Except there is no lion. There is just a white ball and a goalkeeper. And here's the cruel irony. The physiological changes that are supposed to make you stronger actually make fine motor skills worse. Your muscles tense up, your coordination suffers, your vision narrows, all the things you need to place a precise shot into the bottom corner gone. Psychologist Geir Jordet from Norway, who has spent over 2 decades studying penalty shootouts, interviewed players from a Sweden versus Netherlands shootout. All 10 players he spoke with reported symptoms of anxiety. Not some of them. All 10. Anxiety is not the exception in penalty shootouts. It is the universal experience. The question is not whether you feel it. The question is what you do with it. And we are about to answer that. Wait, before we get to how you survive pressure, I need to tell you about the goalkeeper, because this is where it gets really psychological. The goalkeeper mathematically should lose almost every time. The success rate for saves in shootouts is under 30%. But some goalkeepers have turned the penalty shootout into a psychological chess match, and it starts before the shooter even touches the ball. Take Emiliano Martinez, Argentina's goalkeeper in the 2022 World Cup final against France. Before shooters walked up, he was talking, taunting, tossing the ball away, delaying the kick, staring them down. He was not just guarding a goal, he was manufacturing anxiety in someone who was already drowning in it. It worked. France's Aurélien Tchouameni dragged his shot wide. A 2010 study found that if a shooter delays their run-up by even half a second, it actually increases the goalkeeper's anxiety and forces premature dives. So both sides are playing the exact same game. Who blinks first? Here's the takeaway. In a penalty shootout, the technical skill is secondary. Both players are technically excellent. The outcome is largely decided by who manages their nervous system better. That is not just true in soccer. That is true in almost every high-stakes human moment. The person who performs best under pressure is usually not the most talented one in the room. It is the one who has learned to stay calm when their brain is screaming. So how do you actually do that? For decades, England had the worst penalty shootout record of any major nation. They lost 6 out of 7 before 2018. It became a national trauma, a punchline, a curse. Then manager Gareth Southgate, who himself famously missed a crucial penalty for England in 1996, decided to actually fix it scientifically. He brought in psychologist Pippa Grange and a team of analysts. They did something radical. They treated the penalty shootout not as a test of skill, but as a test of mental state management. They redesigned everything. Practice sessions included simulated crowd noise. Players trained with breathing drills. They worked on eye contact routines between teammates during the walk to the spot. They assigned kick order based on personality, who can handle going first, who needs momentum. The goal was simple. When the moment comes, your nervous system should recognize it as something familiar. Not a terrifying unknown, just another rep. At the 2018 World Cup, England beat Colombia on penalties for the first time in their history. Since then, under Southgate, they won 3 out of 4 shootouts. Here is the psychological science behind why this worked. The brain calms down when it recognizes a pattern. Repetition creates familiarity. Familiarity reduces the threat signal. Lower threat signal means less adrenaline flooding your system. Less adrenaline means your automatic motor skills stay in control. In other words, they did not practice shooting harder, they practiced being calm, and it changed everything. So here's what penalty shootouts are actually teaching us. 1. Anxiety is not a sign of weakness. It is your brain trying to protect you from a threat it cannot distinguish from a real one. The best performers are not calm because they feel less. They are calm because they have trained their nervous system to stay in automatic mode even when the stakes spike. 2. The moment you start overthinking something you already know how to do, you break it. This is true for a penalty kick, it is true for a speech, it is true for a sales call. The antidote is not to think more carefully. It is to breathe, set a pre-performance routine, and trust the preparation. 3. The psychological framework England used, deliberate exposure, breathing regulation, pattern familiarity, is not secret sports science. It is the same thing behavioral therapists teach for generalized anxiety. Get exposed, build routines. Your brain learns, I have been here before, I survived, I can do this. Roberto Baggio carried that missed penalty for years, but what he described, the feeling of dying inside, the narrowed vision, the body not responding, that is not a soccer story. That is a human story. And if you have ever choked when it mattered, now you know. It was not your fault. It was your brain. And brains can be retrained. If this made you see pressure and anxiety differently, drop a comment below. Has there ever been a moment where you choked on something you knew cold? Tell me what it was. And if you want to go deeper on the psychology of performance, money, and decision-making under pressure, subscribe. We are just getting started. Next up, watch this video. You're going to want to see it.